Well, well, well. It looks like a certain bunny has really just hopped themselves into some more drama. Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chelsea. You know that, I know that. I'm just a lady with a bulldog, a camera, and too many opinions. Hey, how you doing? And as we know, I have a lot of opinions in general. I'm sweating already making this video. Anyways, if you have not seen, there is some drama, so to speak, so to say, on the Clock app regarding two podcasts. Now, let's go over who's involved. We have Ken Eurichs, or Kennedy Eurichs. Now, Ken is a TikToker. She's young, she's blonde. She has 1.5 million followers on TikTok. And on Instagram, she has just over 350,000. Now, if you're employed like me, that's a joke. I'm self-employed. What? Who's the boss? Wiggum. Don't mind if I do. Uncle Reggie here, it's me, I'm back. Now, if you know anything about something, you know that the internet is trying to get into your brain. So you got to watch out where that information comes from. Big media is trying to get to you. Just look at me. They already got to me. They got me wearing makeup. And now I know Chelsea talks about schemes. The biggest scheme of them all, X. No, not one of them sites. The one that used to be the Twitter. Just announced its 2025 roadmap to become the everything app. What's that mean? We're talking TV services. We're talking that Elon Musk doing everything. Payments, articles, words, pictures, who knows what else. Now let me repeat myself. That Musk fella with his newfound government position would have unprecedented control over social media, TV, and our monies. And yet absolutely no one on the left is talking about it. I went over to Ground News. Y'all know Chelsea had Wiggum set me up with it. He's just the best. And I found over 60 sources talking about this, talking about that Musk fella. And they're all talking about cryptocurrency's integration. Since he's been talking about that Dogecoin for years. He's been hyping it up. Now, I don't know about any Dogecoin, but if you go down and keep scrolling and scrolling, you'll see how the different sides are spinning it. Chalking it up to WeChat's success in China, while the other side of reality is pointing out how centralized mobile services under one company raises concerns about data privacies, monopolistic controls. For that guy with the little monocle, monopoly. It's a real thing. Did you know that? And potential surveillance risks. What are you doing? I'm just trying to help. I leave for a minute. Well, you weren't here doing your job telling them. I went to the bathroom. Okay. I'll leave. No, I'm taking the chair with me. I'm taking Wiggum with me too. I'm sure by now you know this is a Ground News ad read, so I'll just try to pick up where he left off, I guess. Ground News is my go-to news platform and one of my favorite sponsors. Not only are they trying to help me with Uncle Reggie, did you see that tinfoil baseball cap? Like, what's going on? But they were also founded by a female former NASA engineer who saw a much bigger problem here on Earth other than, up in space or wherever you think the aliens are. And they're the only app out there helping you think for yourself and see all sides. By gathering articles from thousands of sources around the world, organizing them by story, then analyzing the political lean, credibility, and even financial incentives behind each perspective, Ground News makes it easier for me and you to compare coverage and think critically. Follow your favorite topics, and maybe you'll find angles that you haven't even looked at or thought of before, thanks to their blind spot feed. And that surfaces more important news from the right and the left media bubble, because news that you are missing affects you just as much as news that you are seeing. That's a bar right there. Go to ground.news/cc or click the link in my description box to sign up for the plan that I use every day. You'll save 40% off of their Vantage plan, and that knocks down the cost to just $5 a month. And you might be thinking, hey, I got a question. Who's Ken Eurichs? Is that a man? It's not. I told you it's a girl. Let's go over to this article from Yahoo Life that gives us a good little breakdown of how, why, and whomst. Through disclosing some of the most intimate and admittedly cringiest moments of her life, Eurichs has amassed a following of over 1 million at the time of this article being written on TikTok, has her own boot collaboration with Steve Madden, and has been dubbed, quote, the next Emma Chamberlain by fellow influencers. A surreal reality for the Pennsylvania native who used to work on a farm before social media fame. Now, I feel like something that's helpful when talking about all these TikTokers is kind of like pointing to a viral moment that they had, right? And so if you remember when there was, those two girls were like arguing over one of their boyfriends, Sophia LaCourte, that one, remember? And Ken Eurichs, this is not how she went viral the first time. She's had multiple viral moments, but one of her sound bites went pretty viral, and she did one and she's like, I hate that stupid ginger, which is hilarious, iconic. Listen, let's just get a little taste, get a little nibble on Kenny, shall we?
I never feel the need to speak on drama, but I actually hate that little ginger. I hate her. I hate her. I watched that video of her and the whole time I was just like seething with anger. The way she spoke about somebody's boyfriend and like hyped him. And it's like, okay, say you guys aren't friends and it is just a coworker. Do you not think you can get any other man? Like, why is this one man so important? Like, to me, if I even know somebody got with somebody else, immediately kind of ruins it in my mind because I'm like, there's so many other people. There's so many other men that I don't need to be around with. Especially, this isn't just like a guy that she around with. This was like her boyfriend. And this girl just whips up and is like, well, it's not a big deal. Like, do you like value other people's feelings in the slightest?
We have decided we are done talking in baby voices because it's embarrassing.
Never again.
We are not doing it.
We're not babies.
We're adults.
We are adults.
We pay rent.
We mean business.
We pay bills.
We are business
We
people.
cannot speak like babies.
This is for that comment that called me ugly the other day. Where? That's what I thought. Now shut up.
Ken Eurichs has also had, I don't want to say like ongoing beef, but a little bit of a tiffy with her experience with Brianna Chicken Fry, who was notably dating Zach Bryan. He, big surprise, turned out to be an alleged abusive a-hole, put him on blast, didn't, sign a NDA, and good for her, right? And obviously there's a lot more to Brianna Chicken Fry than that. I feel like Grace got me in the divorce. Anyways, so with this, there had been multiple clips, not only on her own platforms, but then on other ones, podcasts, things like that, where Ken Eurichs had been talking about her experience with Brianna Chicken Fry and saying that, at a live show or something, she had a bad experience with her, and then that she was invited to a Tarte trip and that she had to get on the phone with Tarte because they were like, yeah, Brianna's invited too. And Lil Kenny was saying how they don't get along, whatever.
Get the email about the Tarte trip. My manager was like, okay, that's great. Ken's down. Can we get the list of everyone else who's going? Well, they're like, yeah, can you get on a call with us first? Why do they need to get on a call so bad? And I go, I have a feeling it's going to either be about, please don't rip us a new one, understandable. Or number two, someone Kennedy doesn't work well with is going. And they're like, so Brianna Chicken Fry is invited. And here's the thing. If Brianna Chicken Fry would have just said, hey girl, sorry, I probably was a you, I would have been like, girl, you're so good. But she didn't. Who knows? Maybe she'll apologize on this trip and the world will be sunshine and rainbows and butterflies. But she doesn't give me the vibe of a who would apologize.
So obviously with getting millions and millions and millions of views on the Tickety Talk and being someone who is, outspoken, no filter basically, and puts out that relatable content, who would not want to snatch up this little girl? I don't mean that in a condescending way. Come on, obviously. So in swoops Dear Media. Now, Dear Media is a multi-platform media company that essentially distributes podcasts. And depending on what type of deal or contract you have with them, they'd be doing distributing. Sometimes if you are more local to them, they would have you in studio and you would have your own studio with them. Again, depending on your contract, they would be doing the marketing for it, getting you your brand deals, possibly scheduling guests for you as well. Again, it really just does depend with your deal with them, with your contract and relationship with them, what all they would be covering. But to my knowledge, that is what they do for a bunch of people. Mainly though, for everyone, it's more so distribution and promotion. And realistically, for a podcast like that is huge. And that is a lot of work in itself. Believe me, girl, we do that. We do that by ourselves for my podcast. Obviously, we do get deals with our management company, Table Rock, thank God. And it is edited by them too. Again, thank God. Shout out to the editing team. We love them. But also, it's not just that. Obviously, it would be timing a lot of podcasts depending on the length of the episodes. It would be anywhere from, 3 hours to 4 hours that you're sitting there with someone, having to do correspondence, having to do, even if someone else is handling the marketing for you, you're still having to be the face of it. And then obviously you're having to do promotional things for it as well. And for someone, no offense to her, but for someone who is younger and who has, not saying she doesn't put a lot of work into her social media. I mean, that does take a lot of energy. That does take a lot of time. But I do think that, being someone who is on TikTok, that it is less work than having a podcast, if that makes sense. Again, not to, diminish what she does. Let's not say less work. Let's just say easier. Because I do think the mental toll and all that and the mental load of it would be similar, but arguably I'd say that's correct. Now, Dear Media also has offices and studios in other areas too. I believe they have one in LA. I believe they have one in Austin. And I think they have one in New York. Not sure. But either way, a lot of these media companies will have one in Texas, New York, and LA. And some even have them in Florida too. But, we're kind of last on the list. So I'd say that their most notable podcasts that they have signed are The Toast, which not really off to a hot start now, are we? Yikes. To explain that joke, apparently The Toast was just canceled. I don't know, which is weird because there was just an episode posted yesterday. I don't know. Maybe they're lying. Who knows? It got me to remember that it's a podcast. And then we have Unhinged with Chris Clemens, and then Pretty Basic with Alicia and Remy. That's a pretty popular one. Not Skinny But Not Fat with Amanda Hirsch. That one is a very, very popular one. Let's Be Honest with Kristen Cavallari, and also The Good Guys with Josh Peck and some other white man. Again, not saying those are the most popular ones, just saying those are the notable ones. Basically, those are the ones I've heard of, okay? Also, looking through that list, I'm all of these people have podcasts? What? Who's giving these people a podcast? Then again, who gave me one? Myself. So allegedly, if I have an update on this and if there's a correction needed, I will update it. But apparently Ken Urich had a burner account, sock account, whatever account called Dumber Blonde. And that's why the podcast was called that. Now you might be thinking, wow, that sounds very familiar to someone else's podcast. Someone who we have covered quite a lot on this channel. And that someone is Bunnie. Not Bunnie Hedaya, BUNNIE XO. Now, BUNNIE XO, you might know because she is married to Jelly Roll, who has the voice of a goddamn angel. Now, BUNNIE XO obviously is not without her own controversies and all of that. If you were not aware of who she was before coming to my channel and you have watched my other videos, you probably do know that she was wrapped up a good little bit in the whole debacle with, in my opinion, absolute worst lawyer ever, Jeanette Braun, or as we call her, Janet, of Jeanette Braun IP Law. Now that might sound familiar because Jeanette Braun is currently suing, along with Lauren the Mortician on TikTok, suing the Do We Know Them podcast and two other TikTok creators, Caffeinated Kitty and Becca Day. And of course, I have an entire playlist about all of this, but the reason why Bunnie is, kind of thrown in to that entire situation is because at that time, that was also Bunnie's lawyer, and she would handle trademark filings for her and getting things on the internet taken down if it was, infringing on copyright, trademark, things like that. Now, Jeanette Braun, the lawyer, Janet, is pretty known on this corner of the internet for not only being an absolute dumb, but also for attempting to have things taken down by claiming that they are in violation of copyright law, which almost everything that I've seen her successfully or not successfully get taken down are protected under fair use. A super easy way to describe that, basically, and I'm not a lawyer or anything like that. Again, I'm just a dumb with a camera, but a great way to describe that is I'm reacting to your stuff, to your content. Yes, it is your content, but I'm allowed to use it and show it because I'm reacting to it. I'm giving criticism, commentary, my own opinions, and not just, reposting it, basically. That's why, the news or internet articles and things like that are able to use pictures and have things for reference. Now, don't get me wrong. There are corners of the internet where people absolutely are just the worst and, bully the shit out of people. Okay, have that stuff taken down for bullying and harassment then, but not for copyright infringement or trademark infringement because your face isn't copyrighted or trademarked. That don't make sense. And for anyone who comments, Bunnie's stands, they are feral and not in a good way. I'm not jealous of her. It's gonna be okay. You're gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine, all right? Not jealous. Bunnie and I are okay. You're gonna be fine. All right. I'll tell ya, Bunnie, Bun, your fans are almost as bad as Michaela Naguera's fans. Almost, and I feel like you know it. So anyways, back to the Dumb Blonde and Dumber Blonde podcasts, plural. Now, the Dumb Blonde podcast posted their first episode on June 20th, 2019, as we can see here from this YouTube video. And it's titled From Threesomes to Babies. Welcome to the Dumb Blonde podcast. Now, why are these two things intertwined? Not only do they sound almost exactly the same, but the Dumber Blonde podcast, it was just announced that it was canceled. Let's let Kenny take it away, shall we?
I just wanted to hop on here and say thank you guys so much to everyone who's like shown support for my podcast, who's engaged with it, who's been a weekly listener. It has been so awesome to be able to connect with you guys in like a longer form content. And I am extremely thankful for everyone who's like ever given it a listen or has even just watched my clips being posted on my podcast page. It was a great way to get closer to you guys and connect with you guys. However, if I'm being honest on my end, on a very personal end and just like financially, it has been a big just dumpster fire since the beginning. I have put so much money into this podcast. You'd think being with a network, you wouldn't, but I have put in tens and thousands of dollars and it just has never been a smooth flow. I've never felt like it was a great fit. And with this whole, I got served a cease and desist today from a podcast that has like a similar name. To be honest with you, do I think it's petty? And like, yes, I think it's kind of but also I don't really care enough. I think it's a blessing in disguise because I already had so many doubts about my podcast and knew it wasn't really something I wanted to pursue, at least with a network. I thought this was like something if I ever do it again, I wanted to do it myself because I don't know. So I just want to say thank you. Seriously, the podcast is ending. I don't even know if I said that or if I just kind of hinted to that. The podcast is officially canceled. I was able to terminate my contract. And like I said, I think in the end of the day, this is a blessing in disguise. But I love you guys, and I wanted to say thank you for the support that you guys have showed me, and then maybe we will connect soon. I'm always going to be on TikTok, so I love you. Bye.
So as Ken mentioned, she was served a cease and desist from a podcast with a similar name. Now that similar name being the Dumb Blonde podcast. Now is the Dumb Blonde podcast and the Dumber Blonde podcast extremely similar? Yes, that is extremely similar. Are they exactly the same? No. And one could argue that Ken has been using this name like Dumber Blonde, like as a brand or whatever, like for her, burner account or whatever for a long time. But it's also like, even if you hadn't used it as like a podcast name yet. And Bunnie's, not me being on Bunnie's side, and Bunnie's podcast started in 2019. And this podcast started in 2023. Now, one thing that I do find interesting and that I do want to make a point of is this podcast didn't start until like it was started with Dear Media. Now, a lot of times podcasts will get started on their own, but after that get signed with a network. This one was not. It was fully conceived, with Dear Media and Ken, which great. If you're able to do that, love that for you. But I do just want to make that clear of it wasn't like the podcast wasn't a thing before, being presented by Dear Media. And also you would think that Dear Media as a huge organization, as the entity at the scale that it is, would have been like, oh, hey, we probably shouldn't name your podcast the Dumber Blonde podcast because someone who already has a pretty well-known podcast has a name that's too close to that. Not even for like, oh, they sound super similar and like we'd be competing with them. That's not what it is. It's even from a branding perspective, it's having those like lines being crossed and having people be confused, right? For instance, there was even on one of the Google searches I did, it even says here, Ken Eurichs from the Dumb Blonde podcast. So easy to get those two things confused. And then it's kind of like how people a lot of times will confuse Bunnie Hedaya and BUNNIE XO. Bunnie Hedaya even made a video the other day that was like, this is not me. Like, this is not me. And she gets confused for her all the time. So really just from a branding perspective, I'm very surprised that they didn't stop that from happening. And so that's quite interesting. Even if she had it set like, no, this is the name of it. This is the branding of it. I don't know why they just didn't. I don't know. That part is very weird to me. And as Ken said, it is true. She was sent a cease and desist from BUNNIE XO and her lawyer regarding the trademark infringement and the name of the podcast. Now, is it exactly the same? Again, no. However, it is, in my opinion, again, I'm not a lawyer, but it is too close in my opinion. Now, something that I was seeing all over Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, especially Reddit, was people were saying, oh, now BUNNIE XO is, coming after another creator with, her lawyer, Janet. This cease and desist was not sent from Jeanette Braun. Janet. Bunnie has stated multiple times that she allegedly fired Jeanette Braun. Apparently it's because of me. Oops. And that was after Jeanette had decided to try to have one of my videos about a situation that Bunnie was in taken down for copyright infringement, which that's not what it was at all. Again, fair use is a thing. Girly pop. Then she got got in an email fight with YouTube about it because she was saying that she was right and that they were wrong. This is not Bunnie. This is her insane lawyer, in my opinion. And she was literally going back and forth with them saying that her and Bunnie were going to sue me, YouTube, and Google. And I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what, girl, get a grip. What are you doing? So that's very interesting and weird. So, hey, don't do that. Don't do that. Especially like with me. It's not going to work out, girl. It's going to be worse for you. Because if there's one thing about me, I can't shut the fuck up. Again, talking about Jeanette Braun, not Bunnie. Now, what I'm thinking probably happened is that Ken maybe wasn't aware of, all that they were going to do and not do for her when it comes to Dear Media and, them signing her podcast, because it sounds like what she put into it was possibly marketing, and maybe they just like pushed stuff out and promoted it. And maybe she did, put together the entire set. I'm not sure, but I would be very interested to, hear more details from her about that. And the good thing is that I actually was able to talk to Ken Eurichs, and I'm saying your name, literally last name's wrong, girl, sorry about that. But I was actually able to talk to her. Matter of fact, I was able to talk to Bunnie too. I've been talking to both of them for the last 24 hours. So that's cool. So let's go ahead and hear both of their statements and versions of events. And when I have receipts and stuff, I will put them on screen. Hello, it's me from a few hours later. So after talking to Ken Eurichs and BUNNIE XO separately, my final thoughts, which I will say again after, I literally thought my final thoughts were going to change, but haven't really. But final thoughts is that this is more so a miscommunication. And in my opinion, I think that Dear Media kind of flubbed up. But again, that's just my understanding of the situation. But let's go ahead and go over some receipts and all that and kind of clear the air, shall we? So first and foremost, my first question for Ken, and of course all these questions were things that I knew that y'all wanted to know too. My first question to Ken was, did Dear Media convey to her that naming the podcast the Dumber Blonde podcast could have been not only a marketing nightmare, but also a trademark nightmare as well? Also, hey, I'm sorry if you can hear the movie Coco playing in my living room. My toddler's obsessed with it and we watch it about 18 times a day. None of my business.
So Dear Media never told me not to name the podcast Dumber. In fact, I was going to spell Dumber a different way. Not sure if that was going to change anything. Legally, I don't know if that would have changed anything. But I was originally misspelling Dumber like I did on my spam account. And then they had told me, no, spell it the correct way. We've just seen in marketing and stuff like that. You're going to want to spell it the correct way. But I was never told hey, we talked to somebody that had a similar name. Nothing, which is kind of where I feel like I'm upset about, knowing that after the fact that Bunnie had said that she had talked to them and had been in conversation about having her podcast on Dear Media. That kind of felt I'm sorry, how did they not clock that and say, hey, sorry, we have someone else?
I personally find that really interesting, especially because they didn't want her to spell it with just an R at the end. They wanted her to do ER, which sure, if we take, the whole Dumb Blonde podcast and BUNNIE XO aspect out of this, yeah, of course, spelling it when you're naming an entity, naming something like that for marketing purposes, yes, it needs to be something easy to spell, easy to abbreviate, things that aren't going to be confusing for people, right? Or confusing for the viewer. Now, my next question, which is kind of goes along with the first one, is if Ken wasn't able to launch the podcast with them and have it be named the Dumber Blonde podcast, would she have still launched a podcast with them?
We've gone through multiple different names. Dumber Blonde was the one that I was wait, this is my spam account name. This is what I want to do. And we looked up Dumber Blonde and nothing came up. But obviously we didn't do enough research on my end either. It is what it is. Like I said, I feel like it's kind of petty. At the end of the day, it was what it was, the copyright issue. I wish that Dear Media did a little extra effort and did a little more researching for me. But I guess if I own the IP, I guess that's on me.
And the reason why I asked that is because it is my little conspiracy theory here. In my opinion, what I'm thinking happened is that possibly they were maybe just hoping so hard that she would sign with them that they were just going to agree to anything maybe. Again, I have no idea. This is just me blabbing, okay? We yap here. So possibly they were you know what? We're just going to go with it. And, they really want Gen Z viewers and to boost that audience. And maybe they were just thinking, we'll deal with problems when they happen instead of being proactive about it and doing it the right way. Again, I don't know. That's just what I thought maybe. I don't know. Don't sue me, Dear Media. I don't know. Also, my husband just sent me a really cute picture of my toddler hugging our bulldog, his bulldog brother. So we'll insert that picture right here because I don't know how long this video is, but I feel like it might be getting insufferable. So here's a little palate cleanser. How cute is that? Makes me want to have 6 more, but also no. Okay, now my last question to Ken was, as we said before, Dear Media offers, and a lot of media companies are like this when it comes to like podcasts and distribution and stuff like that, right? So all of those companies, to my understanding, again, could be wrong, offer a suite of services. So, you know, they could do just distribution or distribution and editing, or they could give you a studio space to build out, or, you know, you could just be in like a random one. It really just does depend. And so I asked her, I was like, but you said that you put like $10,000+ into this. So what were those funds allocated towards? And this is what Ken Eurichs had to say.
As far as putting money into this podcast goes, I put in so much money into this podcast. I feel like I was kind of sold a dream and thinking like I was just going to be making money essentially from this podcast, which couldn't have been further from the truth. I didn't make a dime. Dear Media doesn't pay you anything up front to start a podcast with them, which I knew. I just figured they had all the connections and everything that at the end of the day, like it would be worth it. And to be honest with you, I didn't really care about the money as much as I cared about growing a community. On top of that, all of the editing and everything I had to outsource for my podcast because Dear Media doesn't provide that. I mean, they can provide that, but in the end of the day, it's just getting tacked on to your like larger statement then. And then they also charge more money. Once I was with them, it was kind of like, oh wait, y'all have not really done anything. Like I have done all of the work in this. And then I think the whole bunny thing was like the final straw where it was like, oh my God, like don't get me wrong. I own the IP. I guess at the end of the day, like I'm fine with dealing with it on my own. However, it just would have been nice, I feel like, to have a little more support. Like throughout the entire time with Dear Media, I feel like I really lacked support. It just kind of was like messy altogether working with Dear Media, I'm not gonna lie. So when this all happened, it kind of was like a blessing in disguise.
Now I do want to make it clear, and in part of that little answer, she did say, don't quote me on that. She is well aware that I was going to keep those voice notes. She sent them to me knowingly. I just want to make that clear before anyone comes for me. What she was saying when she said, don't quote me on that, she meant like that could be the number that was in her version of protective language. So I just want to make that part clear. Now for Bunnie XO's statement. Now Bunnie's statement can be summed up to one sentence. It's not personal, it's business. And I do want to make it clear, Bunnie did message her, Bunnie did reach out and tried to handle this without lawyers or anything like that, okay? So there is a narrative going around that, you know, like, oh, well, it just, you know, instantly that was like the first step. And it's like, that's not usually the first step. Typically, people do try to handle things without lawyers first. So again, not me being on Bunnie's side, right? But I do just want to make that clear. For instance, I do have the screenshots right here of their interaction. And I even said to both of them as well, you know, you're both basically telling me the same thing and that your versions of events are extremely similar. And it kind of seems like, you know, the common denominator of I don't want to say misstep, but like the common denominator of the miscommunication and where the telephone and the game of telephone gets a little bit staticky seems to be Dear Media. And again, that is just my opinion and my understanding of the events and how they have been retold to me. So anyways, I do think it's interesting that Ken did say a few times, even in her video and then even to her messages to me, said, you know, it's just petty. It's not really petty. I mean, it's a legal issue, you know? So I do just think that's really interesting. And to have a paper trail of sorts, yes, I think it is, you know, fine that a cease and desist was sent. Now, girl, if you get served, that was different. That was very different. And also to show the receipts and prove that the cease and desist that was sent was not from Jeanette of IP Law. Here is the letterhead and the top portion of that cease and desist that was sent from Bunnie XO and her legal team over to Ken Eurichs / Dear Media. Now, I do think that it's good that in Bunnie's case, especially with this, since it is in my opinion, again, miscommunication of sorts and a game of telephone here, I do think that it is for the best that Bunnie hasn't like responded publicly because, girl, like I said, Bunnie's audiences, they're crazy. Like, I don't even want to deal with them. They're wild. They're so wild. I mean, I got a bunch of feral, horny moms following me, but like, girl. All right, so that is the end of this little intercut update type of segments for these statements. Katie Joy, who? Girlfriend. It's CCSUAREZ. Your favorite journalist, apparently. Your favorite feral journalist. Oh God, let's not make that happen. Anyways, back to past Chelsea. Again, I gave my opinion. I'm putting all this together just, so you have all of the information, because even just listening, when I saw Ken's initial video explaining it, I was like, something's missing. Like, what's going on here? And I've even told Bunnie before too. I'm like, girl, I know you don't like to speak on things, but like, just fucking put it out there. Like, come on. Then again, as a public figure, sometimes it is just better to just not address it and just keep it moving, girlfriend. Kind of like how Michaela Noguera does. So I personally think that, just like how Ken said, that it was a blessing in disguise and, was able to get her out of a contract. Again, I'm not stating that as a fact. It's just my understanding of everything and my opinion. And I think that now, she's learned. I've actually heard not great things about Dear Media from people who, were almost signed with them or who have had meetings with them, or, mutuals of people who are currently signed with them. Again, not stating that as a fact either, but allegedly, like, it's just like not that great, or like what they're doing for you and then what you're letting go of, or like, the trade-off there, it ain't really good from what I have heard from a lot of people. So that's great for her. I mean, maybe she isn't ready to have a podcast like that. And I mean, now she has the experience to where she could just do it on her own. Like I said, she is quite young, but I mean, her audience base is crazy. It is very, very, very good, very engaged. And it seems like she's been able to really build up a super engaging community that will support anything she does. So, I mean, shit, even if she is on her couch, just holding a mic, doesn't even have like a mic arm, that could be great too. I mean, who else does that? What's her face? Avery Woods, doesn't Avery Woods just do that from her couch? So even the canceled podcast does that. You literally just sit on a couch in their house and they're good. So she definitely could just do that instead, and sure, hire someone to like put clips out there and all that, and then just run the podcast under her, like still her, and like for like have her manager or whoever gets her brand deals like handle that too. I don't know. That's personally what I would do, just to have everything under one roof. And yes, it's going to be more work. A podcast is a lot of work, but longevity wise, like personally, I think it's the way to go. That's why I have a podcast, the Here for the Clout podcast. You should definitely, go subscribe and stuff if you want. We get real feral and real crazy. We will be talking about this more in depth too. And we will be talking about how me and Bunnie are going to mud wrestle. She would beat my ass. She would literally, I'd be trying to put her in a full Nelson and she would automatically just have me in like a flawless figure for a leg lock. Okay. Could you imagine getting all boned up thinking about it? And another final thought here. I do think it's kind of shitty of Dear Media. Again, Dear Media, please don't come for me, please. I do think it's kind of shitty of them to like not have done a Google search. They didn't even need to do a Google search. I feel like it was just really messy. Anyways. Okay. That's it for this video. Like, subscribe, and comment and all that. Hey, listen, if you are subscribed, you get a little pep talk at the end. You get me hyping you up. Are you ready? If you're not subscribed, leave. But if you are subscribed, girl, did you know that your butt cheeks look so voluptuous? Only if I had your consent. I just want to, girl, get me nibbling on them cheeks. You are all caked up on a Wednesday? That's crazy. That's crazy. Insane. How dare you? And also, what gives you the right? And also, keep doing it. Listen, if you're not subscribed, also, I told you to get out. So why are you still here? Rude. I kind of like it though. All you have to do is subscribe and I'll tell you how voluptuous them cheeks look. And I'm so proud of you for breathing, because that's, one of the stepping stones to life. Anyways, I will see you in my next video. If you want some a little bit more unhinged takes on all of this, then definitely go over to the Here for the Clout podcast and we don't shut up. Okay. Goodbye.